Gotham Season 3, Episode 19, All Will Be Judged. This was a pretty good episode. My favorite part was definitely the stuff that happened at the GCPD. I think that was, it just got crazy. Like, once Kathryn came in, it was like, alright, this is just ramping up to, like, a bunch of insane stuff. So I'll kind of save that for last. But in general, I think this was a pretty good episode. We got some really interesting stuff with the Penguin and Riddler where they're forced to team up after Riddler gets pissed off and he actually uses, like, this little dart. And he uses it on Penguin, and so he's trying to escape, and Penguin's just bashing the thing. So of course the guards come in, they beat the crap out of Ed and throw him back in the cage. So they decide we have to team up, we'll make a truce, we don't kill each other on the grounds, and we give ourselves 6 hours to, kind of recuperate and stuff, and then we can kill each other later. So I thought they had a pretty good moment. It was pretty small, it was like most of it was in the cage, and then they beat up the first two guys, and then it's just them like almost covered in blood a little bit. There's like a blood splattered at least on Penguin when they just randomly break out, and then he screams and makes everybody run away. So I like their small portion in the episode. Of course, Barnes was the big bad for this episode. Still the big bad by the end of the episode. He just continuously manages to be a part of this series where it's like he was there, they got him, I'm like, oh, he's done for, send him back to Arkham. Broke out on the way there with one hand, by the way, but he does have super strength. And now he's in the wind again, so who knows when we'll see him. I don't know if it'll be, we got 2 more episodes, I believe. I think they said it was 1 more until the finale, so I'm pretty sure we have only 2 left, for the whole season. So maybe he'll show up in the finale, and that'll be like his final moment. Maybe they'll find a cure, because now we got this weird stuff going on with Lee, and I've officially realized what they're doing with her. They're basically making her Barbara from the beginning of the series where no one liked her, because at this point I'm just starting to get annoyed with her, because I'm like, I don't understand what the heck she's doing. At first, it was like, okay, she goes to Jervis, and she's trying to get answers as to why, things played out the way that they did. It's like, why torture Mario if you're trying to get revenge against Jim? Like, you wanted him to suffer, so why have Mario get infected and have him get murdered? And he says it makes perfect sense, and then he explains it, and I was like, that's actually kind of genius. Where he's like, Jim Gordon doesn't deserve love, so I have him kill your love, which means that it would split you two apart, which it still kind of doesn't, because he even referenced the fact that when they were at the dinner table, which was a great scene when they talk about it, it's like, do you remember the dinner? She's like, when you shot Vicky Vale. He's like, oh, really great memory and stuff, or it's not Vicky Vale, because it would be her mother, I guess. But that was really funny, just the way he was so excited, like, really good memory. And him explaining just why, that had to be the way that it was really logical. It's like, this is how I torture Jim. It's by basically having him, torture you, which in turn tortures him. It's kind of a weird cyclical thing. And then it gets to, like, the end of their conversation, where it's like, I see you, blaming Jim, which is kind of what I wanted, but he goes beyond that, and he does say, like, you blame Jim, and then here you are blaming me, but you never really blamed who's at fault. And then Lee says herself, which I personally didn't understand either. I was like, I get blaming, the crazy guy, because personally I think that makes the most sense. Blaming Jim was just dumb, but maybe that's just a viewer perspective, not living through a perspective. And then blaming herself, I also thought didn't make any sense, because I'm like, I guess you could blame her for her denial, because if she did accept it, then it wouldn't have gotten as far as it did, because there were definitely moments where Jim was like trying to get through to her, and he knew that she kind of had feelings and stuff like that, and he didn't want to admit his feelings, and it was kind of back and forth. Neither of them really wanted to admit it, and they're in that sense, I guess they are both kind of to blame. But it was just crazy the way they did her character. And then she goes through, she steals the virus by the end of the episode, and for whatever reason, she's gone through the motions after talking with Barnes and talking with Jervis in this episode. She decided maybe they realize some actual deeper truth about themselves that they kind of kept locked away. So at least I'm trying to find some logic. I have to assume that that's why she did it, because it's like, do I really love him or do I not love him? Because I'm constantly hating him and fighting against him, but now I'm kind of accepting the fact that maybe I did love him, and if I didn't fight against that, it wouldn't have got as crazy as it did. So I feel like that's where all that logic led, and she's like, I have to use this virus to determine what is in the deepest part of my soul and how do I feel. I guess either way it's dumb, because it's still going to end up making her either kill somebody or getting killed. So I don't know where the heck we're headed for her character. but I was trying to put some logic to it, and that's the best I got. So we'll see what happens there. It was a good ending because it was definitely surprising, like her taking the virus, to see what's within herself. So it does lead me to wonder. 2 episodes left. What the heck is going to happen with her character now? Because that's just insane. So it's certainly an exciting ending. I just can't say it makes the most sense, but I am definitely excited to see where it leads to for these last 2 episodes. So I did enjoy it by the end, even if I couldn't find 100% logic, and I kind of just felt like I'm just putting pieces together and trying to make up a good reason. Personally, even without any logic, I was just like, that's still a cool way to end it, because it certainly has me curious as to what that means next. Like, is she going to try to kill Jim? Is she going to be like madly in love with him, like crazy in love? Like, who knows? So I'm excited to see what they do with that. Of course, like I mentioned with Barnes, he was the big bad for this episode. And, he's going after Jim. He's sent after Jim by Kathryn. And that starts off with basically him attacking Jim and Bullock. And they destroy what was the second owl, which allows for them to bring back the first owl. Because I was like, oh, they found a second one. That's interesting. They'll be able to take that. And then they'll have this map. That gets completely wiped out. And I was like, oh, well, what the heck's going to happen next? So they end up talking with Alfred. He brings all his answers in. They bring their answers in. Everything comes together. And it's like, there's two halves, of the same whole. So they get, kind of trade some answers off. They get the owl together. Now they have information on the hideouts, which of course is what leads them to finding out about Barnes, leading them to find out that the virus is gone as well. But now they have this. They have, at least possible locations for where Bruce might actually be, where this virus might actually be. Based on the promo, none of that really mattered because the virus still ended up going off in the next episode, so we'll see what happens there. But they at least have the owl, and that might lead to some stuff for the next season as well, potentially. So we'll see what happens there, but Barnes was super great in this episode. Alfred was super freaking great in this episode. Selena was pretty cool too. When she showed up in the beginning to take out like clone Bruce, she went in like for the kill, and if it weren't for the fact that he was a clone that couldn't feel anything, she probably would have had him when she actually stabbed him. But she just went in full force, like, okay, I'm here to kill you because I don't know where Bruce is, and you're like this insane monster thing, so gotta kill you. And she went for the kill, and it was actually a pretty cool sequence, even though she got knocked out. And then Alfred was fighting against, the clone Bruce, which was also a pretty good action sequence. And they're doing like trading headbutts, but of course the clone doesn't really feel pain. So eventually Alfred just fell down because he got headbutt too many times. I was like, that was still pretty cool. And he, it's Alfred. He was pretty badass this episode. Specifically, when they got to the GCPD, which I mentioned was my favorite part about this episode. And it was freaking awesome. It starts off simple. They get there. Turns out Kathryn's been busted. They bring her in for questioning. That's where we have Alfred. He brings in the piece of the glass and it's like, oh, where's Gordon? And Bullock is like, oh, he's talking to Kathryn from the Court of Owls. And so, of course, he goes in and they talk about the good cop, bad cop thing. And that was freaking great because it was like, it was one of those moments where I was like, they let some really hardcore stuff slide, as cops. And they're standing with this woman, it's this woman who's they believe is the leader controlling this crazy organization that's, bent on wiping out the entire population of the city. And she mentions the good cop, bad cop routine, and Alfred's like, yeah, but I'm not a cop. And he pulled that knife out and just stabbed her straight through the hand, and I was like, this why this Alfred is super freaking sweet. And Bullock and Jim just stood there. They literally moved out of the way as she was saying the good cop, bad cop thing. And he was just like, all right, boom, and went straight through her hand. And she screamed so hardcore. I was like, this isn't like, other stuff where like they kidnap the super spy who can withstand torture. She screamed like a canary. It was game over for her. And then he still went further. It was like, if you don't give me answers, I can go to the other hand. And I was like, she's not, this isn't like physical tough. She's like, that mental tough character. But he went straight physical, and I was like, oh, this hurts. And he went straight through her hand. I was like, that was a super badass moment for him. And then, of course, that's when Barnes comes in and, nobody shoots him in the head. I don't know. So he comes in, drops the grenades, which I still don't know what those grenades did. I thought they were like flashbang grenades, but I don't know. It's really hard to say, but I guess they were knocking everybody out. So I guess they were just gas grenades. So everybody's knocked out. He's in there. And that's when Bullock and Jim have to deal with him. And they also have Alfred come with them because they need to get Kathryn and Jim out. So that, of course, completely falls apart. And they all try to take on Barnes. Once again, no one shoots him in the head because Alfred's just like, I'm going to shoot him right in the back. And then I'm going to shoot him in the chest. And we all know that Alfred could have just shot that dude straight in the head and it would have been game over. But it's television. And we go through kind of this crazy little action sequence where they're getting tossed and beat up left and right. And then we have Kathryn like right in the middle of it, which I certainly didn't see this scene coming. But she's like, she yells at him and is like, stop this foolishness and get me out of here right now. And as soon as he's like, foolishness, and he's like, this isn't foolishness. He basically did a "this is Sparta" thing, and he sliced her head off. Like, it was insane. I was like, he just decapitated her, and that's it. That her character, she's dead. She is dead and gone. And of course, that ties into kind of Bruce's storyline because he officially kind of gives up his emotions, which ends up being a trick. Surprise, the guy's a villain. It was admittedly, for me at least, a bit of a surprise because all the crap he was going through, especially with the memory that he gave Bruce, I was admittedly a bit surprised that he was trying to turn him into the weapon to still wipe out the whole city. I was like, I'm sure we'll get an answer, but once again with the lead thing, I'm like, as powerful as this dude is, what the F is the point? Like, just wipe out the whole city, replace the kid with a clone, which, maybe it was because they knew the clone would die. I was like, we have to have the real Bruce. I don't know, but maybe we'll get some official answer. I'm like, just destroy the effing city. It doesn't matter. They have all the money. They have all the power. That was a big thing of season 1 anyway, is that they basically still have all the control and Bruce does nothing. So, I don't know. I was just like, why does he really need Bruce as this main weapon? So that's still kind of up in the air. But him kind of coming back into the fold after controlling Bruce ties into Barnes like wiping out Kathryn, who was the face of the Court of Owls for the most part, and then he just decapitates her, which of course sets off Alfred because it's like she was our one lead to get Bruce, so he freaks out, tries to fight him. That doesn't play out, and then Barnes goes after Jim. Jim blows his freaking hand off. They've been getting pretty gruesome in these past couple episodes, but he blows his hand off, and I thought he was just gonna end it, like no more Arkham crap. I thought they were gonna do something where he just blew his head off. I was like, this is insane. But they kind of did the normal Batman thing: as many people as you have killed. Which I guess he didn't really kill anybody in this episode except for one of the other villains. He technically knocked everybody else out. So in this case, I guess it wasn't too bad. But typical Batman mode is like, all right, Arkham, no big deal. Just go to Arkham. And then of course he ends up escaping. So like I said, we may or may not see him in the next episode, or possibly make his final return. We'll see what happens there, if it's his last scene in the finale. But we'll see what happens there. But for the most part, the next episode seems to focus on the weapon actually being distributed within the city, and Bruce basically being one of the Talons at this point. Him being completely mind controlled. So I'm excited to see where they take that. Selina didn't have much to do in this episode outside of the beginning. And then, once she and Alfred kind of woke up, that was like, all right, that's pretty much it. And she didn't really show up again. So I feel like we'll probably see a bit more of her in the next 2 episodes, and maybe we'll find out what happened with the other Bruce, because he took off after he beat up Alfred. He did leave, so we don't really know what's gonna happen with him or where he took off to. But we know that he's dying, so maybe that'll just naturally happen within the next 2 episodes. He won't be able to fight back anymore. So we'll see what happens there. But I'm excited to see where they're headed. We got 2 more episodes to go. This is definitely a fun episode. They're of course bringing back the war element again, at least for the last 2, between Ed and Penguin. And Penguin has his his supernatural army, and then Ed is of course kind of teamed up with Barbara and Tabitha and Butch, so they have the normal underground army. So I'm excited to see where that goes, and then of course what in the world is going to happen with Lee. No effing clue, but I'm excited to see what they do in these next 2 episodes. Of course, we'd love to know what you guys thought about this episode, so please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts, least favorite parts, and I would love to know your theories on what is going to happen with Lee, because at this point, I'm super confused. I don't know. I would love to know your logic. Like I said, I feel like I had to completely make up a whole story. Like, there are bits and pieces, and I think I filled in a lot myself, so I could be right, I could be wrong. I would love to know your theories on her reasoning, like the logical reasoning as to why she took the virus, what they're going to do now that she has taken it. Like, is she going to be super compassionate to Jim, where she realizes she made a mistake hating him all this time and she does love him? Because even, if it's the virus, that's good that that's what's in her heart. But of course it's going to go bad, because it makes people go absolutely insane. Even if it's their true self, they take it to a mentally deranged level. So even if it's I love Jim, it's going to be I love him, no one else can have him sort of thing, where everybody around him has to get slaughtered or something crazy. So That's my theory on it. I think she will ultimately profess her love to Jim, and then be like, cool, but things are weird right now, so we can't be together, and then that'll like send her on a crazy trip because she's infected with this insane virus, which may or may not make her super strong because it's kind of different with everybody. So we'll see what happens there, but like I said, we'd love to know your theories on what you guys think will happen with Lee, and like I said, I want to know what you guys thought about this episode in general, so please comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.